Hey Regan, how are you? So this video we're going to go over some stuff to review for your quadratics test that you need to still take. So in this email that I'm sending you the video, and I'm also sending you the attachment. This is the page, so go ahead and get this out in front of you. We're going to do some together, and then that way, hopefully this is a good review for you, and then you can take your test on this, okay? All right, so the first way of solving quadratics that we talked about was using Desmos. So of course, you're just going to get on the website. You can plug this in, and then where the graph crosses the x-axis, so again, remember your graph's going to look something like this, and then where it crosses the x-axis, those are going to be your two answers. So it's pretty simple. The next section, solve by factoring. So remember, factoring, to factor, we just open up two sets of parentheses, and we're looking at factors of 21 that subtract to give you 4. So factors of 21, we have 1 and 21, 3 and 7. So 7 minus 3 is going to give me that 4. The bigger number goes first. We have x and x. Remember, the first sign comes straight down, so that's plus. This sign is a minus, so these have to be different signs. So since that's plus, then this has to be minus. Okay, so that's factored. Now we actually have to solve this. So what we imagine, remember, is that for this times this to equal 0, this has to equal 0, or this has to equal 0, or they both have to equal 0. So we're going to take care of that by saying that x plus 7 equals 0, and then x minus 3 equals 0. So if I solve this, subtract 7 from both sides, I get x equals negative 7. And notice all that happened here is we just flipped the sign. This was a plus 7, and our answer ends up being negative 7. So here, this is a minus 3, so our answer turns out to be positive 3. So that would be the solution to the problem there. Okay? All right, I want you to pause the video right now, and I want you to try number 4. So go ahead and pause it. All right, hopefully you paused it and you have an answer. So let's take a look. So open up two sets of parentheses. I'm looking for factors of 108 that add to give me 21, and that's actually going to be 12 and 9. I'm sorry, yeah, add to give me 21, sorry. And this would be x and x. Bring down the minus. This is a plus, so they have to match. So that would be minus. So then my answer here is going to be a positive 12 and a positive 9. So those would be my two answers. All right, let's look at number 5. So number 5 is a little bit different because we have to use the AC method. Okay, so we're taking A times C, that gives me 12, factors of 12 that add to give me 13. So that's going to be 12 and 1. So we have x plus and x plus. And now that we took A times C, we're done with our A. It helped us out, but we don't need it anymore. So we're going to divide the A back out. So this becomes x plus 6 and x plus 1/2. And then we flip the signs. So negative 6 and negative 1/2. Okay, so again, what I want you to do is I want you to pause the video. I want you to try number 6, do it on your own, and then play the video again, and then you can see if you did it correctly. Okay, so hopefully you did the problem. So if I open up two sets of parentheses, I'm going to take 3 times 15, and that gives me 45. I'm looking for factors of 45 that add to give me 18. Well, the two numbers that I multiplied together to get 45 actually add to give me 18, so those are my factors, 15 and 3. So the bigger one goes first. Bring down our x and our x. This is a minus. This is plus, which means these have to match, so that would be minus. And now that we've used our a and our c, we're going to take it back out. So divide by 3, and I get x minus 5 and x minus 1. But wait a minute, that didn't really work out, did it? Or, I'm sorry, it worked out. Looking at something different. I apologize, Reagan. So this is correct. So we just flip the signs. We get positive 5 and positive 1. Okay, the next section, solve by square root method. All right, so we use square root. What term must be missing for you to be able to use the square root method? Your b term is actually gone. So, you know, our quadratics is ax squared plus bx plus c. So we're actually missing this middle term that just has the x with it. So like here, we have no number with just x. So what we do is we want to isolate or get the x squared all by itself. So add 6 to both sides. So now we have 4x squared equals 64. And then divide by 4. And we get x squared equals 16. And how do we get rid of a squared? We take the square root. So then we have x equals plus or minus, because this could be positive 4 squared or negative 4 squared. And when we have quadratics, you always need two answers. So x equals positive 4 and also negative 4. Okay, again, I want you to pause the video, see if you can do 9, 10, and 11, and then replay the video, and then see if you got those correct. Okay, you should have done those. So the answer to number 9 is x equals positive negative 7. Number 10 is x equals positive negative square root of 10. And number 11, so when we do this, add 15 to both sides and we get 5x squared equals 120. Divide by 5 and we get x squared equals, what's 120 divided by 5? Which is 24. And then if we take the square root of that, well, that's not a perfect square. So let's go over again how we simplify these radicals. So if I have square root of 24, I'm looking to break that up into something times something where one of those something is a perfect square. And that's going to be 4 times 6. So square root of 4 is 2. Square root of 6 I can't do anything with, so it just stays. So my answer is plus minus 2 radical 6. All right, again, pause the video and try 12 and 13 and see if you can do those. All right, number 12 actually ended up being positive negative 6i. Remember, you had a negative under that radical, so you have to have an I. And then 13 plus minus 2i radical 10. All right, flip it on over. Okay, so this is using quadratic formula. So this top part is just find the discriminant. We're going to skip over that. Just simply we're going to go straight to the quadratic formula. All right, so remember quadratic formula is negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. And remember, we always start with this b squared minus 4ac first. Okay, so if we look at number 16, excuse me, if we look at number 16, we're going to see that we're going to do our negative. So here's our b squared minus 4 times a times c. So when I do this, I end up with 16. Remember, negative 4 squared, when you put it in your calculator, make sure you put those parentheses, right, so that we get the correct answer. And then this becomes negative 4 times 1 is negative 4. Negative 4 times negative 14 becomes a positive 56. And then when I add that, that gives me 72. So that is what's going to go underneath the radical. So now we're going to follow this and just plug and chug. All right, so we have negative b. Well, my b is already negative 4, so now it becomes positive 4 plus or minus the square root of 72 all over 2 times a, and my a is just 1, so it's just over 2. The first thing we do is we simplify the radical. So 72, I'm going to think of factors of 72 that are going to be perfect squares. Excuse me, and that's actually 36 times 2. So if I break this up into the square root of 36 and the square root of 2, square root of 36 is 6, square root of 2 stays. So I'm going to replace square root of 72 with this 6 radical 2. So I have 4 plus or minus 6 radical 2 all over 2. Our next step is then to look at our numbers. What can I divide all those numbers by? We can divide them by 2. So if I divide everything by 2, I get 2 plus or minus 3 radical 2. And remember, we don't touch what's underneath the radical. Leave that alone at this point. So this is my final answer. Okay? All right, I want you to pause the video again, and I want you to try number 17. All right, so you should have paused the video. Hopefully you got an answer for number 17. All right, so this turns out to be my b squared minus 4ac ends up to be 432. And I realize that's a really big number. So square root of 432. And that is actually going to break down into 144 times 3. And the square root of 144 is 12. So that's what that part breaks down to. So if you struggled with that part, that's okay. That's a big number, and I understand. So now we do negative b. So we have 6 plus or minus, sorry, we already simplified the square root ahead of time. So 12 radical 3 all over 2 times our a, which is 9. So this is 6 plus or minus 12 radical 3 all over 18. Look at these numbers in front. I can divide everything by 6. So this becomes 1 plus or minus 2 radical 3 all over 3. Okay? All right, and then 18. For 18, remember we always have to have these equal 0 first. Sketch this out so we have some room here. All right, so in order to make this equal to 0, we're going to make this 8x squared plus 6x plus 5 equals 0. We just added 5 to both sides. So I'm going to do b squared, so 6 squared minus 4 times 8 times 5. So when I do that, I end up with, this is 36, and then 4 times 8 is 32. Right? And then we have to take 32 times 5. And let me get my calculator here. All right, so we have 6 squared is 36 minus 4 times 8 times 5. That gives me negative 124. So this equals negative 124. The whole thing equals negative 124. Sorry, this right here was 160. So this is what goes underneath the radical. And remember, we got a negative under the radical, so we're going to have to deal with that. So we have negative b, so negative 6, plus or minus the square root of negative 124 all over 2 times our a value, which is 8. All right, so let's simplify this. So negative 124, I actually can... so sorry, I have a tickle in my throat. Okay, so we can take 124, and if we divide that by 4, that gives me 31. So this is square root of 4 times square root of 31. Square root of 4 is 2. Square root of 31 is just the square root of 31, so we're going to replace that. So negative 6 plus or minus 2 square root of 31 all over 16. Now we look at all these numbers. We can divide everything by 2. So negative 6, I'm sorry, dividing by 2, negative 3 plus or minus square root of 31 all over 8. Okay, so for your tests, what you need to make sure that you know how to do, you definitely need to know how to use Desmos in order to graph. So this is a must, okay? And then you're going to have to solve by factoring, so make sure you remember your factoring. And then square root method, so square root method, so that one. And then you're going to have to use quadratic formula, okay? So those are the main parts, and I'm actually cutting down your test. We did word problems as well, but just for time's sake and for you, I think it'd be much easier if we just kind of keep it concrete this way. So what I need for you to do is, if you have questions, I need for you to email me those questions so that I can help you out a little bit before we take this test. Okay, so let's aim for this test pretty soon just to get it done and over with. All right, let me know if you have questions, Regan. Talk to you later. Bye.